Welcome back, y'all. It's another cold, windy winter day here. Since it's not really that great of weather conditions to be working on the garden, working on anything else, I decided that today I'm going to work on something I want to work on instead of something I need to work on. And that's usually hard for me to do. It's hard for me to set aside time to take care of my wants when I know I got a whole lot of needs that need to be done. But this one has been on my list for several years now, and we've actually already started on it. And to be quite honest with y'all, I wasn't going to film any of it, but Jacob wants to film it. Megan told me I should go ahead and film it, so here we are. We're going to film it. And if you want to see what we're talking about, here we are. I am finally taking time to work on my old F250 sitting here. Take a glimpse under the hood, y'all can probably get an idea of what my past used to look like. She's all covered in mud. Now, as you can tell from everything here, this truck's been sitting here for quite a while. I'm pretty sure Maggie's never rode in this truck, and Jacob was a baby when this truck was still running. So it had some mechanical issues that came up with it, but I was still able to kind of like move it around from spot to spot, and then it finally just quit. It would not run anymore. And the best I can figure is that's been at least, gosh, at the very best, it's been like 6 to 7 years that this truck's been sitting here. So it's been sitting here a while. Well, let me give you a little backstory on this truck. This is a 1989 Ford F250. It's 4-wheel drive, got the 5-speed transmission in it. Well, you can't see much through there because the window's all covered in mildew. It's got the 7.3 liter non-turbo IDI engine in it. And this old truck was this was the truck that pretty much took my business to the next level, I guess you could say. Now take for instance, that's been a long time ago. This truck was a lot better shape back then. But this was the first heavy-duty truck I ever bought, and actually the first truck I ever bought with my own money. So I had trucks. I had my high school truck that Mom and Daddy bought me when I was in high school. But this was the first real, what I call real truck that I ever had. The first heavy-duty truck I ever had, first 4-wheel drive truck I ever had. It somewhat holds a little sentimental value to me. I like this truck, and I've honestly hated seeing it sit here, but you know, life goes on, and you just lose track of time, and it's hard to find time to fix things that you don't have to fix. So today I'm finally going to work on it. Now I have worked on it intermittently between all these years. I've took notions just to piddle with it, try to figure out what was wrong with it, and I never could figure it out. Well, lo and behold, I think just a few minutes ago I figured it out. But let me tell you what was going on with it. So what it would do is act like it was running out of fuel. Now this truck's got a manual fuel pump mounted to the side of the block right there. That line right there, it won't focus, but that line right there is where your fuel comes from your tank. That line right there sends it up to the engine. Now, I don't have a fuel filter on it right now, so I'm going to have to get one of those before we can actually hear it run. But anyways, I could not get fuel from the tanks to this pump. It's like it wouldn't suck it, like something was either blocking it or something. And I checked everything. I put this new fuel pump on it. I done everything at that time that I could think of. And I really felt pretty dumb a while ago. So what my plan was I've been thinking about it again lately, and I'm like, I'm going to run me a fuel line from this pump over to a tank. And if I can suck fuel from that tank to the engine and get it to run off of this tank, well then that tells me I've got problems from here to the tanks. So either something's going on with the fuel tanks or something in the lines or anything like that. But I think I really found the problem a while ago. This is the fuel line that was mounted there. And why in the world I never checked this when I was working on it the first time. But look at this, y'all. There's a hole, plain as day, right there in that fuel line. And that would have caused every bit of the problem I was having. I mean, y'all, I've worked on this truck for hours, not today, but in the past, trying to figure out what was wrong with it. And when I seen that hole in that fuel line, I'm like, what in the world? Why did you never check that rubber fuel line to see if it had a hole? But I'm still going to go ahead and go with my plan today. I've got this little 2-gallon jug right here full of diesel fuel. I'm going to go ahead and run me a line from this fuel pump over to the tank and see if we can get anything to happen. We took the batteries out of my old red dually up there and we put them in here, and we've already checked it, and we do have life. So the engine will spin over and everything. Everything looks the way it's supposed to look. So luckily all that still works after it being sitting here that long. Got me a pretty good length of fuel line here. And we're just going to pop that on. There we go. So this jug right here is going to act like my fuel tank. So right now, like I said, we cannot start this truck because we don't have a fuel filter on it. The fuel filter screws on right here. Honestly, I don't know where the fuel filter went. I think that I must have took it off when I was working on it before, is the best I can tell. But I do have the fuel line down here on the pump loose that runs up to the filter. And if you don't know, on these old Fords, you got a starter solenoid right here on the side of the engine. You can take and jump that solenoid and turn over this engine without ever getting in a truck. I don't recommend you do it unless you know you've got everything in neutral or whatever and it's not going to try to run, and it's not going to try to roll with you. But you can do just like this right here. So what we're aiming for here is to suck fuel out of that can. But if I can see fuel start coming out of that line, then I'm pulling fuel from this tank to the fuel pump, and that's a great sign if I get that. Right there, that's where we're going to be looking for fuel to start squirting out of. Look, there it comes.
There it goes.
We got that. It's looking good, guys. Holy cow. So I get this line right here tight, and then we'll see if we can get fuel to pump up to the fuel filter housing. And if it does, well, I'm going to have to make a trip to the auto parts store and get me a fuel filter. Because telling you, that's a good sign right there. We might see this thing run this evening, y'all. Holy cow. So y'all, this time I'm looking for fuel to come out in this area right here. There it is. Well, it looks like I'm going to be making another trip to the auto parts store and get me a fuel filter. I just got back from getting that fuel line, but I didn't have no idea that I didn't have a filter on here, so I'm going to have to run to the store and get a filter, and we'll continue this when I get back. Okay, y'all, so we just got back with our fuel filter. Luckily, we've got a parts store not about 10 minutes from here, so when you're having to make a parts run, it makes things pretty easy. So I'm going to take and put fuel in this. Jacob, come here. I'm going to kink this hose off, and you hold that. Pull it on out of the tank. Okay, let's see if we can pour it in that filter. And filling this filter up will just make it easier on everything. You won't have to spin the truck over near as much because the filter will already be full.
That filter can hold a whole bunch.
Yeah, it does hold a whole bunch. You can unkink it now. All right. Let me see. So it'd be nice to know where the other fuel filter is because I got a sensor that goes in the bottom of it right there. Of course, it don't matter because I've done filled this fuel filter up. But that sensor is just a sensor that tells you if you got water in your fuel or not. So it's not that important. I think we can do without that for now. We got bigger issues to worry about right now. Yeah, them things are high dollar filters. You're looking at almost 60 bucks right there. So the next thing we need to do, we need to spin it over again, and we have a bleed screw right there, and we can bleed all the air out of the system. It's a little valve right there, like a valve stem on a car. Oh yeah, got a good stream of fuel there now. Even though we made a mess all over the engine, the next thing we need to do is take the take this air breather right here off, and we'll crack all these injector lines and bleed the air out of those. Jacob, one of the best things about these old trucks like this one is you can do what we're doing right now and diagnose problems. You can work on them. They're so much easier to work on than your new stuff is nowadays.
Yes, the new stuff has. Why is it easier to work on?
Huh?
Why is it easier to work on?
Because you got fuel. You've just got everything's mechanical. Just like we got an injection pump right here that runs from this. You got a line coming from the fuel filter to the injection pump. Then your injection pump goes out to your injectors, and that's it. That's what runs this engine, and the fuel pump down here on the side of the engine. And it's all mechanical. There's no electronics on this truck except for that wire right there, and that wire is what tells the injection pump to cut the fuel off. So when you turn the switch off on the truck, it cuts it off. All right, well, you run up there and get me a 5/8 wrench.
Okay.
I know we done put it up, but we're gonna need it back.
Okay.
So a little backstory on this truck. While Jacob's gone to get that wrench, like I said earlier, at one time this was actually my main truck. This was the only vehicle I had other than the little white Nissan y'all can see in the background of videos and stuff. At that point in time, I had to work on a lot of my stuff all the time, because so if something went wrong with it, I had to fix it because I didn't have the money to pay somebody else to fix it. And a truck like this is a great truck to have if you're in that kind of position, because you can take very little mechanical skills and do anything to this truck that needs to be done. And I'm sure I'm probably going to have to do something else. Even if I get it running today, there's probably going to be something that's not right that I have to fix because it's been sitting for so long. So rightfully so, it's going to be something wrong with it. I would be really surprised if it's not. But we used to joke all the time about this truck because there's not a part on this truck that I have not touched. The only piece on this truck that's never been worked on by me anyways was the transmission. So we've put the rear end in this truck, we put a front end in this truck, I've put a transfer case in this truck, put a new clutch in this truck, I've had to replace a few body parts on this truck, and the last major repair that I done to this truck was I put an engine in it, and I bought an old truck from a neighbor that had a good engine in it, but the rest of the truck was just wore slap out. So I bought the truck from him pretty cheap, pulled the engine out of it, and put it in this truck. And, you know, that's something that I've noticed just since I've got older that's not like it was when I was younger. You know, like 20 years ago, when this truck was like my main truck, you've seen parts trucks, like you've seen old trucks in people's backyards all the time. People have vehicles parked behind their house that they quit driving, and you could go buy those vehicles for fairly cheap and use them as parts vehicles. And you know, that's something you don't necessarily see anymore. A lot of vehicles now, if somebody had a truck that they weren't driving, or a car or whatever, they've sent them to the scrapyard, and they don't hang on to those things anymore. So it makes it a little more difficult when you're trying to work on this old stuff nowadays. But still, I think most of the parts for these old trucks like this can be found at junkyards pretty easy. And a lot of the parts that I bought for this truck came from a junkyard. You know, most of the stuff I didn't buy it new. I couldn't afford to buy new. I couldn't afford to go buy a brand new rear end or a brand new front end or even a brand new engine. Who knows what a brand new engine would have costed for this truck. But anyways, that's one advantage to an old truck like this, is a man with very little mechanical skills can pretty much replace anything on this truck. I wouldn't even attempt to work on some of these newer vehicles the way I've worked on this truck right here. I want to show you. See, this is the line that goes to the injector. The injector's right there. That injector is what puts fuel down into that cylinder. And then when the injector fires, the cylinder comes up, the injector fires all at the same time, and when it comes up, it creates a bunch of compression on these diesels. And when that diesel fuel gets under all that compression, it explodes and pushes that cylinder back down, and that's what makes a diesel engine run.
Oh.
So you don't, like on a gas engine, you have a spark plug that ignites that fuel inside that cylinder, where on a diesel, it actually ignites because it's compressed so much that it just makes it explode.
It squeezes it.
Yeah, it squeezes it. So what we're going to do is just crack these injector lines, if we can get them all loose. We'll do one side at a time.
So what are you doing?
I'm cracking these injector lines, loosening them up. Cracking means loosening them up. And I'm fixing it so that, see, it'll push the air out of the line faster if you've got it opened up. You could just sit here and spin and spin and spin and spin and spin this engine, and it would eventually push all the air out of the fuel lines, but it makes it a whole lot easier if you've got the injector lines opened up. See, you have to do this same thing if you ever ran this truck out of fuel. Or like on a tractor, if you ever run a tractor out of fuel, you can crack open the injector lines and bleed all the air back out of the lines.
Oh. Can you reach it?
Yep. All right. Let me run around there and turn the switch on. Well, the glow plug solenoid still works. I just heard it click. So that's a good sign. So now we're going to spin this engine over until I see fuel bubbling up out of every one of those lines. I ain't going to kill the starter. We'll let it. Oh, I got a leak right there. There's fuel leaking out of that line, big time.
So we're going to have to go get another fuel line.
No, we got that. I believe this new fuel line I bought is the same size as this. Yeah, that thing just looks all nice and dry rotted.
But do you need the other fuel line for over there?
We can cut some off of it.
Oh.
We'll pull this fuel line out of there. Where that line's kinked, we'll cut that off. We just need a short line, about like that. Let's stick this back in the tank. Okay. Take two. See what we can do now. See, Jacob, from this filter, it's got a long ways to pump fuel before it actually starts coming out those injector lines. But I ain't seeing nothing yet. Huh. Not looking good now.
What's that noise?
That was the pedal inside the truck. I don't either.
Should have got there by now?
Huh?
Should have got there by now?
It should have, yeah. I feel like it should have. Let's crack the injectors on this side. We'll let that starter cool off. Where'd you do with that wrench? I think I can reach most of these. Well, we've got a flat tire on this side. Makes it easy to work on this side. And maybe I should have done them one at a time. But I'm starting to see some wetness on this line right here. So it might be coming. All right, let's see what happens. Huh?
Is there another line busted? Where that line was wet at? Was that line busted?
I don't see one. I don't see no fuel coming from nowhere. Huh. Well, darn. Make sure everything looks good down in this tank. Yeah, we're good. The tank, the hose is still down in the tank. Well, what in the world? The only thing that means is it's possible that injection pump has went bad. But maybe we just ain't spun it enough to get fuel to it.
It's slowing down.
What'd you say?
It's slowing down. Took some power from the batteries.
Yeah. Well,
We're
going to try this. Make sure we still got fuel coming out here.
Let's get it back in. We're filling the batteries.
Yeah, we've run the batteries dead. Well, darn. We're going to have to put the battery charger on them. Alrighty, well, back to the drawing board. We're going to have to put some juice on the batteries. I don't understand why we're not getting no fuel yet, though. I would have thought it would have done pumped it all through the system on it by now, as much as we've spun it. We're going to crack them all back down tight, though. We'll just have to continue it tomorrow, I guess. Well, we stuck a battery charger on it, so I guess we'll just have to wait till tomorrow. But I did, off camera, crack the line going to the injection pump in there, and I do have fuel coming from the fuel filter to the injection pump. So, if I can't spin this thing a few more times and get fuel coming out of those lines going to the injectors, unfortunately, that might mean that injector pump has went bad sitting here. Now, it was not bad when I parked the truck, but it could potentially be bad now because I wasn't getting fuel to the injection pump when I parked the truck. That was the whole problem. I could not get fuel to come up here to the front of the truck. If that's the case, I may not fool with fixing it right now because that injection pump is probably one of the most expensive parts on this truck. But let's just keep our fingers crossed that we've just run out of juice on the batteries and I just haven't got all the air purged out of the system yet and everything's going to go good. But we'll find out tomorrow. Well, it's the very next day and the battery chargers have been on the truck all night, so we should have some good charged batteries. So let's look, see if this thing shows that they're oh yeah, the light's green. So batteries are good and charged. So I just had the battery charger hooked to one battery, but these batteries are connected in a line to each other, so I don't know for sure, but in theory they should, when you're charging this one, should also charge that one. But anyways, what we're going to check today, I thought about this last night, and there is a solenoid on this injection pump right here. Let me bring y'all in. Okay, so right there is the injection pump, and that's what pumps the fuel to the injectors, which are these things right here. Well, this little wire right here plugs into a solenoid, and that's what shuts the fuel off when you turn the switch off. Well, what I'm thinking today is where this truck's been sitting so long, it might be possible that that thing right there has gotten stuck. So that's the first thing we're going to check this morning. So Jacob, if you would for me, run around there and turn the switch on. I'm pretty sure that might have been the glow plug solenoid, but I'm pretty sure I just heard a solenoid. I can hear this solenoid clicking right here. Stick the mic up. Y'all hear that click? So the solenoid should be working. Because what I'm doing right here is unplugging and plugging the wire, just touching it up to it. But for safe measure, I'm just going to tap everything. And if it's truly stuck, we'd have to take this top plate off of the injection pump. So do you still have the switch on?
Yeah.
All right, just get out and leave the switch on for now. The good thing is my glow plug solenoid's working. I heard it work the way it's supposed to. So maybe we just didn't have enough juice in the batteries yesterday to spin this thing over enough to get fuel primed to the injectors. So I'm pretty much just going to basically repeat what I done yesterday. I don't see no sense in filming this. When I bring fuel up to the injectors, if I do, I'll bring y'all back. So trying to start the truck yesterday was a complete and utter failure. I didn't have any luck at all. So I didn't really video anything other than what y'all saw from yesterday. But what I did discover is there's got to be something inside my injection pump that's either cutting the fuel off or blocking fuel or doing something. So that got me thinking. And I remembered I had an old injection pump up at my mom and daddy's house from years past. I went up there and got it and took it apart, and here's what I found. So laying here on the foil rack is the injection pump. This is not the injection pump on my truck. This is off of a different truck. Your injection lines come out right here. This runs to your injectors. This is where the fuel comes into the injection pump. You can unscrew. There's actually a locking screw that goes right there and locks this in place. I've already took all that out. You can unscrew this. And under there, we have a screen. See that screen? So this all kind of comes apart here. But there's that screen under there. And so I'm wondering if the screen on my pump down there, it might be stopped up. What I'm going to attempt today is to either take that injection pump off or see if I can take that screen out with the injection pump on the truck. Still got the old battery charger on it. So right there is our injection pump. And this right here is what we were looking at up there a while ago on the old pump. Like I said, I'm going to have to take all these lines off just to get them out of the way. And I'm going to have to take off that line, the supply line coming to the pump. And then I should be able to get to it. And at that point, if I don't see anything wrong or no clogs or anything like that, then I would just about be 100% certain that my injection pump has went bad sitting here. And that is a very real possibility, but it's the one that's going to be the most expensive option, so I'm kind of hoping that's not the case. I'm really hoping that when I pull that cover off, I see a clogged up screen. I can clean it out and put it all back together and get diesel fuel flowing through the way it's supposed to flow. This screw was loose. A lot looser than it was on that old one. That little screw I just took out acts like a thread locker. And it doesn't let this piece that I'm fixing to screw off, doesn't let it turn. It kind of locks it in place. Well, I want to tell y'all something. You ain't going to get up into a new one like this and work. What did you say you was earlier? Made you feel like we was dating again.
I feel like we're teenagers again.
She spent a lot of time watching me work on a truck when I was young.
Those are date nights.
Yep. Date night was
We'd go get us something to eat, and then we'd
work on a truck.
Yep.
And it wasn't by choice either. Just couldn't afford nothing else better to drive, and there's always something wrong with it you had to fix. This truck here, I had to work on it all the time, and a couple of old Chevrolets I had before this one had to work on all the time. Just seemed like it was always something wrong with them. Little something all the time. Ew, that's nice and rusty.
And you would say, that's what I get for driving old junk. You
Yep.
say that all the time.
I used to dream of the day I could afford a nicer, newer vehicle. Now I got them, and I'm back down here working on junk, wanting it to run. Kind of goes in a circle, don't it?
Yep. How many lines is it?
8. You got 8 injectors, 8 cylinders. Maybe I could take these first few top ones off. See, the thing is, they're all hard lines, so they're all tied to each other. So, chances of me being able to move just a couple of them out of my way
Slim to none.
is slim to none. But I'm going to try it. Yeah, I did tell Jacob that if I got it close to running, I'd come and let him know. Or if I got it to where I thought I was going to be able to do something, I'd let him know. I can't get to that bottom line down there, but I'm able to move them. So maybe I should take that off. Funny thing is that socket set right there, that's the same socket set I had when I was in high school.
Really?
Yep. I'm still working on vehicles with it. Look at there. So I got the ones I needed out of the way. Cool. Now let's see if this wrinkle go on there. Perfect.
Well, didn't you say you put a new injector pump on?
It had a new one put on it like probably 12 or 13 years ago. All right, here's the moment of truth. Come on. Ain't nothing in there. Oh, this whole piece come out. Oh no. And there ain't no trash. That is totally not what I wanted to see. You see what I'm talking about? There's my screen. I was really hoping that thing was going to be plugged up with trash. Now I got to see if I can put it back together without seeing it. There it is. Oh me. Well, I guess what we'll do now is I'll try to start it a couple more times. And if I don't succeed, I'll know that it's probably the injector pumps went bad on it. There ain't nothing else it can be. This is the last link in between the fuel filter and them injectors getting fuel. It's this right here. All right, I got all the lines put back. I got my fuel line run back. And unless I've left something loose that I don't realize I've left loose, I think I got all tight, but I've still got these injector lines unhooked here. So we're gonna spin it over and see if we can get fuel coming out. Well, looks like we're gonna have to wait another day. The batteries are dead. Because somebody left the switch turned on yesterday. That's the bad thing about working on a vehicle where you gotta have the switch on and then you walk away from it, I guess. But anyways, I guess we'll be back again tomorrow. All right, y'all, I've made some progress, finally. It's the next day, and I didn't record it because I was just basically down here just scratching my head, but I want to show you what I done. So this is the old injection pump that I showed y'all earlier in the video. I took it apart to see what was going on in this thing. Right here is the cap that sits on top of that that pump. This is your fuel cutoff solenoid. And that solenoid moves all that right there and makes it shut the fuel off. Okay, so before, I thought this little dude right here was the fuel shut-off solenoid, and that was the only one working. But what I kept racking my brain around was I was like, how does that shut fuel off? And it just didn't make no sense to me. So I got to messing with this one, and this one was actually stuck. And I freed it up, and when I throwed power to that plug right there, that solenoid activates. All right, so after doing that, I come down here to my other one. Done the same thing. I pulled, that's the same cap we were just looking at. I pulled that cap off. Lo and behold, my fuel shut-off solenoid was stuck. And not only was it stuck, the rack inside that the fuel solenoid moves was also stuck. So basically what I've done is freed up all that stuff in there. Now it moves just perfect like this. It's not stiff or anything. It just moves really free. And I just tried it, and I actually got my first little squirt of fuel out of one of the injector lines. And so I thought I'd bring y'all back in and let's see what happens. All right, switch is on, right?
Yeah.
Let's make sure we hear this thing click. Yep. I'm actually going to hold y'all up there so you can hear it. So now we got a lot deeper click inside that pump. So at this point, we should be able to, if I keep spinning, it started squirting out of that injector line right there first. These four are the ones I've got broke loose. These four over here are still tight. So I'm going to turn the engine over until I hopefully see fuel coming from all of them. See it? Oh, was it? Yeah. I didn't see it. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that one down. Oh, yeah. Look at that. So I still don't think we're getting quite the stream of fuel that we need to make it run, but now at least we've got fuel coming out this side. I'm going to crack the other side and let those bleed out for just a minute. See, Jacob, this works the same way. Like even your tractor. If you were to ever run your tractor completely out of fuel, you crack these injector lines open on it and spin the engine over until you got fuel coming out the line. And that way, if you can push the fuel out without cracking the lines, it just makes the process a whole lot faster if you crack the lines open and push all that air out. Let's see what happens. Look at there. It looks like some pretty good streams coming out there. I'm going to go ahead and tighten those back down, because this thing, to the best of my knowledge, is about ready to fire up.
Ready, Maggie?
So just from fooling with this thing, to me, the glow plugs seem like they're working exactly like they're supposed to. Ha ha ha!
Golly, that thing's loud.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, y'all don't remember what it sounds like, do you?
It put out smoke, baby. That wasn't no smoke. That was dirt flying out of the engine.
Probably was. Uh-oh. It sounded good for a minute there. Well, something's happened. We've either got a lot more air into the fuel lines or something. All right, I'm gonna try starting it from up here. Tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna shoot a little bit of the magic juice in it just to see what happens. Yeah, apparently we still got air in the lines is what's wrong. I can't understand why it's not taking fuel. It's running on its own. Uh-oh. She got a hold of some air. That's what happens when it makes that noise. So since I actually heard it run, I think I'm going to go ahead. I don't know. I might go ahead and just put some more fuel in this jug and let it run and let it sort of clean itself out a little bit. And then I will take and cut my fuel line and hook it back up to the fuel line coming from the tanks on the truck. And hopefully it'll run off the tanks on the truck. Just puffing a little bit of smoke. That ain't bad. Considering she's been sitting for 7 years and ain't run at all, that's not bad at all. Man, she purrs like a kitten. Something ain't right with that injector pump, or it's got some air in it one. I don't know. See, it's barely running right now. I don't know what's happened unless we've got a hold of some more air or something. There we go. I decided to go ahead and cut it off, and I think I'm going to go ahead and move it to where it's pulling off the tanks on the truck. This truck's got dual tanks on it, and I just messing with it, and I switched it from front tank to back tank and back and forth. And according to the gauge on the dash, nothing really happens. So I'm pretty skeptical that it's actually going to run off of the tank on the truck. Yeah, she run long enough to get warm. Radiator hoses is warm. And for anybody concerned, I did check all the fluid in this truck before I even attempted to start it. I just did not show that on camera. You like the way it sounds?
Yeah.
What it probably is that selector valve that selects the front tank and the back tank. Those things are known to go bad on these trucks, and the simple fact that this one's been sitting makes it even worse. All right, moment of truth. Let's see if she's gonna run off her own tank. All right, it'll take it just a minute to run out the fuel that's actually in the line. But we'll know in just a few minutes that this thing's actually gonna run. She's alive, y'all. She is alive. But I did just remember, I do have the vacuum pump off of this truck so I could get to my fuel tank. I mean, my fuel pump down there. Y'all might see a little bit of smoke coming out, but that's just where the fuel leaked out on the exhaust a while ago. But I do have to put this back on so I'll have brakes. That pumps the vacuum for your brake booster over there. We got to pump a tire up and put that booster on, and we can see if it'll move on its own power. Holy cow, y'all. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it.
I know. You probably don't ever even remember riding in this truck, do you? You did when you were like a baby, but it's been a long time.
I can't remember riding it.
I didn't think you could. I know Maggie's never been in it. So I got that vacuum pump put back on. This tire's been flat for several years, so I hope it takes air. I bet that thing's at least 3 or 4 inches in the ground. You know, Jacob was just asking me why wouldn't it move on its own, and the number one reason where it's been sitting so long, the brakes could potentially be locked up on it. You know, there's no doubt in my mind that the clutch and transmission, rear end, all that stuff's going to work just fine. The clutch could possibly stick, but I doubt it. It don't feel like it is when you mash it in the truck. But the brakes would be the biggest thing, and the brakes would actually be the biggest thing of it being sitting. You've got your front calipers up here. Them things are bad about sticking when they've set for a long time. The master cylinder under the hood, those are bad about going bad when they've set for a long time. Brake lines in general can dry rot and bust when you mash down on the brakes, you know, so there's a whole deal of things that could potentially be wrong with just the brakes alone on this truck from setting. Jacob has gotten pretty excited about it now, and you know, if we could get this truck running and back in a decent mechanical state anyways, I don't much care about the body, but mechanical state, you know, even though we've got like 6 years before Jacob gets his license, you know, this could potentially be his first truck to have. It'd be a good first truck to have. Anyways, let's fire it back up and see if she moves. All right, y'all. Moment of truth. Who knows? It may not even crank back. And if it don't, well, we've still accomplished something this evening, even if it don't. Well, there's a good sign. When I let go of the parking brake, I felt the truck roll back just a little. So that means the brakes hopefully aren't locked up. She's buried. Something must be locked up on it, on one of the wheels. There we go. I'm gonna give y'all a quick walk around of it. You can see it good now. We got some mold in there popping off. We'll have to do something about.
And this is where your tire fell off that time. Remember that?
Yeah, the back tire came off one time and crammed up into it.
We've got a new bed for it.
I went to Asheville and bought a bed. We did buy the hood. The hood's actually on here because
The hood flew up.
yeah, the hood flew up one time too. It come unlatched, and as I was driving it, it said wham. But we went to Asheville and bought a bed. I bought 2 doors. I got the seat. The seat that's in it now come from that same guy too. But we never did put the bed on it because I think it ended up breaking down right in amongst that time.
So. I don't think it was long after that.
Ain't that something, y'all? A 50-cent piece of fuel line
Was the problem.
was the problem. The other stuff
well,
that
the thing is, did you tell them that you worked and worked and worked on it, trying to figure out?
Yeah, about 2 years ago, I took a notion and I worked on it for about 2 days and never could figure out what was going
Well, even
on.
before that, when it first,
Yeah, when it first quit, I worked on it then too. But at that point,
it was a busy time of life. The kids were little, and
I was extremely busy.
We were
with my
both
business.
working like all the time, and
it was just, it wasn't important.
Yeah, it was a busy time of life, and it just got set to the side.
It did. I'm gonna fool around with it this evening and mess around with it. We'll eventually, I probably won't do it today, but we'll eventually get the pressure washer out and knock all this mildew off of it, clean the bed out. But anyways, I know this ain't our typical type of video, but I figured
over the years, we've had so many questions on that truck, though.
Yep.
So many and emails, and
we couldn't go and not make a video on getting it running. And y'all, I'm not gonna lie, I laid in the bed last night and I thought about this truck. I couldn't go to sleep because I was thinking about trying to figure out what in the world, why I wasn't getting fuel. And I figured it out.
Yep, you figured it out.
I talked to a guy at the store earlier today, and he said, "Man, I fixed more things in my sleep than I ever have while I was awake." And that, I mean, that's a true saying, because you lay there in your bed and you're thinking about it. Now you know you've got peace and quiet, and you can just get into some deep thought about something. But anyways,
Till we see y'all on the next one.
y'all have a good one.
Have a good one.